time to get bold. So I'm gonna probably go back to my Escoda Versatile and mix up some rich, deep, foresty greens, kind of staying in the same cool temperature range. I don't want to bring in anything that I haven't used before necessarily, so I'm going to stick with my Phthalo Green, and this time I think what I will do, I've got some, and as I say this, I'm adding a new color, but it's going into that Phthalo Green, and that is Carbazole Violet by Daniel Smith, and that's going to mix up a really nice dark. Let's test it out on the paper. A really nice dark, and then that is a little on the too green side, so to tone that down, I'm adding my burnt orange. Let's just put that right next to the previous color. Now I've got a darker, a little tiny bit warmer. We've got the trees in the foreground that need to be warmer. So I want to have plenty of this mixed up on my palette. Maybe a little bit more than what I have there. I'd rather have too much than not enough. It's easier to have too much and than it is to have too little and have to keep going back and mixing paint. I'm going to get that nice and dark, and I'm going to go a little bit thicker in paint and more up on the tip of my brush, kind of bringing it down on the sides here and there. So isn't that beautiful? See how it's settling into the group. This is a Hanamule, little piece of scrap paper. So what I think I'm going to do is start over on the dark side and start by just getting that corner a little bit darker. And also want to be sure and have some more of that green gold, so I can drop that in here and there like that, just to break it up a little bit and not have exactly the same color all the way through. So it does make it a lot more interesting if you break your greens up. That didn't look so good. Well, I think I'll also get a little bit of a gray brown so I can drop that in and make it look like some tree trunks. Kind of like to add a little bit of movement here by giving it some pull and direction right over the top. I think I want to come up on the tip a little bit and come over here and add some of that lighter green. I want these trees to connect as well, so I don't want them just standing like little soldiers set apart. And then I'll drop some more of that. Do you see how the change in the greens makes a more interesting visually? I'm going to drop in a little bit of that brown, grayed down brown. And just swipe a couple of trunks here and there. I'm not really good about doing straight lines. But I'm going to come over the top of it and look at the swooshy movement that that brush makes. It's so cool. You got to use all of your brush. Just little bits and pieces. You know, some people I watch when I'm teaching, it's almost like they're afraid to use the brush, and so they dab a lot. I don't want to see dabbing, to see movement, variety. One of the, I think it was, who was it? Oh, I think it's in one of my watercolor workshop by, oh gosh, Australian artist. And in his book, he talks about changing up the greens every like inch or so, or maybe that was Tom Lynch. Might have been Tom Lynch, just to make your greens more interesting. And I think this, I want to come up right off the page. So that was kind of an afterthought just now. So hopefully I can pull that off, maybe by bringing another tree close. Let's give it the appearance that it's closer and bigger. And I did not have enough greens mixed up. But we're going to make it work. I think a little more warm in this foreground tree. Will help pull it forward a little bit. A little warmer as we come forward. And I am real close to covering up all that white that's so important, and I didn't really think about that ahead of time as much as I should have. And these little guys are going to be a little bit darker in their trunk. A little light shining through. I think I want those to be a cooler temperature, so I'm adding some blue. But I want some of that light to shine through as well, so I'm not going to cover that up totally. They are smaller, more distant, so I want to make sure to keep that in mind. So they actually should be a little bit more lighter in value. I'm going to lift some of that out. It was getting a little too dark, so I'd rather lift it out while it was a little bit wet. That makes it a little bit easier to lift. So, all right, so let's come over to these trees. These are a little bit closer too, so I want to get a warmer green and a little bit more of that green gold in there, which I'm quickly running out of in my palette. So now I've got a nice, may not be dark enough, but I can add some shadow to that. Let me just see about putting in the tree trunk there. And I'm doing the burnt orange and a cobalt blue for the tree trunk. You can do burnt sienna, you can do burnt umber with the cobalt blue or with ultramarine blue. So I'm gonna use my arm and just drag that all the way up. And then tip of that brush, I think I lost my edge that I was trying to keep. Try not to do it on this one. And that's going to lift out really nice right there. I'm just going to encourage it a little bit. Right away, I really want to come and soften that. I don't think I really want 3 of basically the same size, so I'm going to grab my rigger, my smaller rigger, which is I believe it's a number 6. That's not it. I should put about half of my brushes away because I'm always digging through them. It's a number 6 rigger and it's a Princeton. So I'm going to use that to get some smaller trunks. Real quick like a bunny. And some of the branches are coming off the top of this, so I'm going to come up here, and while it's still wet, just kind of come across. And come across the sky. I want to lift a little bit of that out. It was just a little too much of a knob. And so is that. I can also make them a little bit different so they don't look so much like twins. It's really hard after the fact to go and try to continue that. It should be one swoop and then one and done. That looks like a little bird up there. This is actually me painting. This is how it happens. I go, oh, there's a bird in the tree. How about that? Let's just go with it. Oh, let's see. Not so sure about those. I think I'm going to need to add another layer, but I'm going to go behind and add some trees, brushwork. See if that doesn't kind of bring them. Right here is my bank. I'll put some of that bronzite. It's a fun color. Also a granulating color by Daniel Smith. Yeah, time to set this aside. Okay, so let's bring this to a end, to a close. I'm fairly satisfied with how this painting played out. I think I'll use this little dagger striper to do some finish up stuff. There's a little Indian yellow and some of that yellow ochre. And I tend to let my paint get too dry, and then I can't grab what I need because it's not wet and ready to go. So that in mind, that's something you don't want to do. Can be a little frustrating, so I'm just gonna add some just real fun flicky brush strokes with this brush. It's a really good brush for that. You don't have a lot of control with it, and sometimes that's a very good thing. For somebody who likes to have control when they're painting, it's good to loosen up, and one way to do that is to get a brush that you can't control. I found that very helpful in my painting over the summer. Particularly, I had a lot of extra time on my hands, which was great. So I was experimenting a lot, and some of the brushes that I was using allowed me to be super loose. So I very much enjoyed that. So I'm gonna try to keep that going on as I continue on my painting journey. I do see a little bit of red, which I kind of like in my reference photo just down, just to add a little pop of a complementary color, because you know there's so much green. There's so much green that it can be a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes landscape painting is really challenging because of the green. So it's really good if you can do swatches like I showed you earlier in this video. I have actually a swatch book that I made over the summer to help me organize my swatch, all my swatches. I've had papers and papers and piles of paper of swatches, and it was a really good way to organize. Okay, so I cleaned up, I shouldn't have done that, my bark, my trunk color. This time I think I'll get burnt sienna and go with my ultramarine blue to gray it down this time. It's a little bit darker of a mixture. And this brush holds a ton of paint and water, and it really releases it, so it's you got to keep an eye on the tip of it because it can be very drippy. So I'm just going to add some extra brush work. And even though those are pine, they do have branches that come straight out. That's a little too much. A little too much. Wipe it off. And I really do think that it's time to call this done I really am not gonna go too much more into any kind of detail, so if I don't stop, at some point it's just going to get worked over too much. Okay, that's all I'm going to do, and my overall impression of this paper is good. I do like it. I'll probably order more of it in larger sheets. I think I need to adjust a little bit of my technique to the paper. So when you're not used to something, you got to give it a little time, you know, to break it in, kind of like a new pair of shoes, actually. So you got to give it a little time and a little bit of a break when it's not doing exactly what you had envisioned in your mind. And that's kind of the case with this one. So yeah, I'll do the scene again, and I'll tape it down next time. Although I really do like how the edges are painted. I really hesitate to cover that up. So all right, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, would you click the subscribe button and join me on my channel? And I will link in the description below the colors I used and the brushes and where you can find them. Also Twinrocker, I will list that link as well. So thanks for watching, you guys. Have a good night. Talk to you later. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.